Hello, my name is Robin Daniels and I'm delighted to join you as part of TEDxGrosseto. Big thanks to the organisers for pulling this together in difficult circumstances. I wanted to talk for a few minutes about reimagining home and bring to you 3 examples of projects that we're working on in different parts of the world and think about the lessons we might draw from them in the context of the home in which we all share together. This picture is 50 years old now, and between then and now we have lost 50% of the animals that live in monitored ecosystems. In 2 generations, half the animals in the world have disappeared, almost solely as a consequence of human activity. We have some big challenges to put that right. We have big challenges in the context of climate change, and of course we have a global pandemic at the moment as a little bit of a wake-up call, hopefully, that people will listen to. The Sustainable Development Goals have been very helpful. They're not perfect, but they're a good checklist. Whatever you're doing, the decisions you're making in life or in business or whatever it might be, using these as a bit of a cross-check as to whether you're generally in the right direction is helpful. But what can we do day to day? How can we think about our homes and the places that we live and our lived experience of those places a little bit differently, in a way that will both add value to the quality of our life and help to preserve the planet that we will share together? How might we reimagine home? So here's a first example. West Midlands of the UK. This is actually a picture of Birmingham. Highly built up, very densely populated area, lots of roads, some railways, big urban development. 7 cities altogether across the region, 6 million people, big economic cluster. Lots of traffic, quite a lot of ugliness, quite a lot of bad planning decisions made in the past, cut off communities, polluted waterways, unappreciated nature, and not really always a very pleasant place to be. If we look at the experience of people living there, and this is a summary of multiple deprivation indices, we see some interesting things. Most strikingly here, you see a distinct delineation between different parts of the city that are divided by big infrastructure. It quite literally does depend on which side of the tracks you live as to what your quality of life, indeed your life expectancy, might be. If we look at the West Midlands without the roads and without the buildings, however, we start to see things very differently. This is the West Midlands with the hidden rivers and the geography and the topology exposed. This is a beautiful place if you see what's beneath the concrete. So as well as those physical urban statistics, we see 900 kilometres of canals. There's a UNESCO geopark. Significant beauty and real opportunity to reimagine this area, which is actually a huge basin crisscrossed by rivers and waterways, but concreted over and hidden for most of the people who call this area home. So we've been working with Birmingham City University, who are leading on this, in developing a concept called the West Midlands National Park, and it's about developing a strategic landscape vision for the future. It's an economic proposition bringing together the environment, citizens, businesses, NGOs and the public sector around a way of reimagining the future. Now, it's not just about the geography, of course, or rivers or roads. It's fundamentally about people. It's about the lived daily experience of a place that people call home. Living, working, playing, raising a family are fundamental facets of what makes home and what makes towns and cities indeed. And so the West Midlands National Park is about reimagining the way experience place in their daily lives. It's also about culture and history, recognising tradition and the sense of belonging that is so important. And reimagining the future. What do we need to do now to make the lived experience better for our children and grandchildren? So, from Birmingham, we're going to the Amazon rainforest. This also is a community and a home full of families and children and tradition. They have challenges, they have different challenges, some might say some more basic challenges like fresh water and sanitation and access to education. And that's not including, of course, the huge and significant existential threat of climate change exacerbated by illegal logging. This is, I don't need to tell anyone watching, I'm sure, this is a situation that affects everyone on the planet. So we're working very closely with the Rainforest Conservation Company that owns and manages the largest private protected reserve in the rainforest, including 3,000 families, 15 local communities. Tradition is fundamental. Engagement of the people in the solutions that are going to keep them there and enable them to live the lives, the traditional lives that that is passed down to them from their ancestors is critically important. But let's not forget the future, the career opportunities and the economic impact, the sustainability and the resilience of communities are fundamental to the preservation of the rainforest. And so we're approaching this, like the West Midlands National Park, as an economic proposal. It's about rainforest conservation, it's about biodiversity protection, the sustainable development of local communities. Poverty, deforestation, climate change and global warming are fundamental drivers in this dialogue and in these projects and activities, but it's the people who call it home that are key. Education is so important as part of this. And like the West Midlands, engagement with the younger communities, the next generation, is an absolute imperative. It's all very well for those of us of a certain age to try to predict what the future might look like and make assumptions for them. But this is what we develop now is going to be our legacy, but it's going to be their lived experience. They need to be at the heart of it. This isn't the Amazon. This is Norway. This is in the Arctic Circle. These are the Lofoten Islands. Beautiful part of the world. But here also, tradition, community, the effect of climate change, changes to the environment are fundamental. The Norwegians truly love and feel connected to and bonded with their landscape and the natural environment. They're in the Arctic, but in the land of the midnight sun, they experience more hours of sunshine each year than almost anywhere else on Earth. It wasn't always like that. The Second World War saw the annihilation of Buda, this small town north of the Arctic Circle. One historic building remains. But out of the ashes came a thriving town, 50,000 people. It's a dot on the landscape, but it's also has been a very important military base, being on the doorstep of the Soviet Union. And as you'll see in the image here, an international airport was put in place, primarily, initially at least, as a military facility. The airport needs to be moved, and that has led to some significant changes and replanning around a new airport, a new marina, a port facility, new integrated public transport. This is the beautiful library at the heart of Buda, and here we clearly see evidence of the significantly important traditional fishing industry as well represented. It's a thriving tourist destination. It's a thriving and growing community, and the civic leadership in Buda have been thinking very hard about the kind of future that they would like to see for their children and grandchildren. Recognizing always the importance of tradition and culture and storytelling and narrative in all of these places has to be a fundamental part of reimagining home and reimagining what the future could be. How can we live our best lives while looking after the home that we share together? Here's the existing airport, and here's where the new airport's going to be. And the land that's going to be liberated will be home to a zero-emission neighbourhood and a number of other innovative climatic solutions. The airport project itself will have zero waste going to landfill. And in Norway, the Norwegian Public Roads Administration stipulates that new developments, new infrastructure must add to and complement the beauty of the natural landscape. Here we see an example of that. And the lesson, I think, for all of us is to think about how planning policy and the decisions we make that are long-term, particularly long-term infrastructure decisions, are going to leave us leave a legacy that we can be proud of. Buda, the community of Buda, the Norwegians of northern Norway want to keep their land beautiful, but they want it to be prosperous, and they want to encourage opportunity, retain talent, and particularly develop innovative solutions that allow for resilience and sustainable growth in a way that fundamentally protects the environment. They are reimagining home in the way that they want it to be for the future. And that's the lesson I think we could all learn from. Is when we look back on Earth, or someone looks back on Earth in another 50, 100, 1,000 years' time, what do we want to see? We need to reimagine home now so we can start making the steps to ensure that that's the home that we leave behind. Thank you.